You know how sometimes people say something and there's a meaning beyond the literal interpretation of their words? Like if there's context or history or tone or something else behind their words. Like if I come up to you and say, that's a nice shirt, you can probably detect that I didn't actually mean that that's a nice shirt.
Almost like if I were to say, Riley Dennis was born a woman. That would be false, and it would be the opposite of the truth.
When we use language, we very often mean stuff beyond the literal interpretation of our words. When I say it's raining cats and dogs, I don't actually mean that pets are falling from the sky. So, with all of that in mind, it's important to know that the phrase, "it's okay to be white," is racist as shit.
So I revel in the fact that the left are so triggered by the "it's okay to be white" campaign. And this phrasing is genius for triggering the left, because what it does is it shows the hypocrisy. Because everything else that is racist that you could say, right? Like, I hate blacks. I hate Hispanics. You replace those words with white, it's still racist. But this phrase is so innocuous that if you replace it with any other word, it's perfectly fine. Only the word white makes it racist. And that's the whole point of this campaign, was to show that hypocrisy in the left.
I know it may sound innocent to some of you, but it's a dog whistle. It's a phrase that would fly under most people's radar, but would signal to a certain group of people, in this case, white supremacists, that the person saying this phrase is one of them.
So Riley's right, it is a dog whistle, but it is not a dog whistle for white supremacy. No. It is a dog whistle for people like me, people who are sick of the left, who want to point out the hypocrisy of the left. And what it does is it does two things. One, it shows students that, yes, it is okay to be white, no matter what your professor might say. And two, it points out this hypocrisy, because right now, on campuses all over the U.S., we have professors telling students that they are disadvantaging others because of the color of their skin, that they should be held back and not given the same opportunities as other students because they were born white. And it is completely out of control. So when leftists see these posters that say it's okay to be white, and then they go freak out and start shutting the campus down and protesting, the media takes notice, and they have to report on the stuff that's going on these campuses. And if they had done their job in the first place, we wouldn't need campaigns like this, because people would have seen what's going on these campuses, and they would have called out these professors, called for their resignation, and we wouldn't have this mess on our universities that we have right now.
The phrase, "it's okay to be white," recently gained notoriety thanks to the garbage can of the internet, 4chan. White nationalists and neo-Nazis on that site designed the phrase specifically to try and piss off people on the left and make white people look like victims. They wanted a phrase that could embolden white nationalists while appearing innocent to the average person. They wanted to make the public sympathetic to their imaginary cause of white people as a group being oppressed.
So again, it's not white supremacy, it's just people who don't want to go along with the left's agenda. But nowadays, anybody who doesn't go along with the left's agenda is labeled a white supremacist by the left, even if they're black or Hispanic. So there's that. On top of that, yes, white students do feel oppressed because there's a clear bias against white students. And this is with good reason, guys. All you have to do is go look at the hundreds of newspaper articles that come out each month from our campus newspapers. Articles like the one that just came out from the University of Texas that called white DNA an abomination. Go look at the thousands of tweets that are sent out each month by college professors, like the one that called their students white devils, and the college professor who said all he wants for Christmas is white genocide. Go look at the programs on college campuses that are meant to disadvantage white students and hold them to a higher standard than other students in the name of so-called equality. So when these white students and other students see a sign that says it's okay to be white, and they're not bothered by it, instead inspired because they think it might point out the hypocrisy in all this, that's not racism.
They desperately wanted to be victims. And frustratingly, they've kind of succeeded. Flyers with the phrase have been plastered around colleges in the US. Some asshole was actually paid money to give an "it's okay to be white" speech at the University of Connecticut. And white nationalist Tucker Carlson cried about it during his segment on Fox News.
That person who did that "it's okay to be white" speech, his name is Lucian Wintrich. And he did it to try to trigger the left. And it did. They ended up attacking him, and then he was arrested, showing the bias on universities, which is exactly what I said from the beginning, that this It's Okay to Be White program is all about.
But this phrase actually has an even deeper history than just racist asshats gathering on 4chan. The Anti-Defamation League has found much earlier usages of the phrase, including in a 2001 song by a white power band, in white supremacist flyers from 2005, and a KKK member tweeted the phrase in 2012.
Okay, so a few bad people used the phrase "it's okay to be white" over the last decade. I mean, this is like saying "I like tomato sauce," right? It's a pretty common phrase. The fact is that she used the SPLC and ADL as her sources, and that bothers me because those two groups are actual hate groups, and they're caught lying all the time. And I hate this hypocrisy that the left think they can use the SPLC and ADL as sources, that companies like Google, YouTube, Facebook, they are using the SPLC and ADL as advisory groups to tell them who to ban, who not to allow on their platforms. And these groups are caught making things up constantly.
Like, okay, literally word for word, with no context, "It's okay to be white" is true. But knowing that it has more meaning behind it, knowing that it's a racist dog whistle, that should be enough for you to say, no, fuck this, fuck that phrase, it's racist and I don't want to have anything to do with it. It's really not that hard. Don't give these people the time of day. Don't get into an argument about whether or not it's okay to be white, because that's not the discussion. Literally nobody is saying that it's not okay to be white. We're only saying that the phrase "it's okay to be white" is racist as shit.
Okay, so Riley has not been able to tell us just how this phrase is racist, other than pointing to a country music song written in the 90s by a supposed KKK member. But let's say she's right. Let's say all the leftists are right, that this is a racist phrase because it was used by a KKK member back in the 90s. How much money do you guys want to bet that if I went to a college campus tomorrow with a flyer that said "it's all right to be white," a phrase which was never used by the KKK in a country music song, how much do you want to bet that they would be doing the same exact thing, that Riley would be making videos calling it a Nazi dog whistle? I'd bet my fortune on it. And it's true. These people, they don't care about the context of these phrases. They know that this phrase, it points out the hypocrisy of their arguments. It makes them look foolish. It triggers them. And so they want these phrases to be considered hate speech so that the people who put them on campus, the people who point out their hypocrisy, will be punished. And we see this all the time from the left. All they want to do is censor people who dissent. They are authoritarians, and Riley's no different. And this phrase is brilliant in the way it points that out.
And what's frustrating about this is that the racists who hide behind this phrase know that context matters. They know exactly what bullshit they're pulling. Because when they see the phrase "Black Lives Matter," they infer a whole lot of context about that phrase. Because taken literally, Black Lives Matter literally cannot be offensive. It's just a statement of fact, and if you disagree with it, you're saying that black lives don't matter, which would be a really shitty thing to argue. But conservatives and white nationalists are often offended by the phrase "Black Lives Matter" because the context they take from that phrase is, and therefore white lives don't matter.
No, nobody cares about the phrasing of Black Lives Matter or the context of that phrase. People don't like Black Lives Matter because it's a group that ignores facts, ignores the statistics on police shootings, ignore the facts of these shootings, and usually only protest when the people who were shot were criminals and at fault. They burn cities down, they destroy property, they shoot police. That is why people don't like Black Lives Matter. It has nothing to do with the phrase Black Lives Matter.
So there's just no equivalency between the two phrases. But I think this can demonstrate how people infer meaning from phrases that otherwise don't have a whole lot of meaning behind them because of context.
Wow, the fallacy of this argument just flies right over her head, doesn't it? So anyway, guys, you can see, number one rule of the left, right? Leftists always project. And it's just every day nowadays, right? They just can't help themselves but lie about other people and accuse them of doing the same thing that they do. And what she's doing here is taking the wrong context out of something and trying to infer meaning onto a phrase that only means one thing. It's okay, guys. It's okay to be white.